The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mark Lawrenson, as usual. I'm here with Bart Earl, Claudia Johnson, and Jessica Frank. This is our 6th call. It's being recorded for your later perusal if you so desire. And today we're really dealing with the content from week 5 of the material. So I've got on the screen the syllabus. We're here on the 5th week of content. You had a nice long video to listen to that covered all these topics, and we asked you to do a little bit of homework. I should tell you that this syllabus has been updated just now to include materials for the next 2 weeks, which Jessica will talk about in a bit, A to J author oriented. And they include videos and some homework, some modest homework to be done. So I think she'll put that in the chat as well. We'll come back to that. But our main order of business is to review what you watched this past week and to answer any questions you may have, including any issues you ran into in doing the homework. And the homework, as you, if you've done it, you will recall, was relatively light. We just had you go through and create some dialogue elements and guidance and a script to hide and show a warning, and an opening and a closing dialogue, kind of a welcome and a closing dialogue to make the interview a little more complete. Let's see. We didn't have any volunteers to present. If anybody is willing or able on short notice to present, we'd welcome it. We'd also welcome any questions you have. So I think I will just call for any questions or issues or comments, both about this week, week 5's content, or the course in general. If you have anything, raise your hand, draw our attention to you, or put something into a question pane. And I'll be quiet for a minute and give people a chance to think if they want to raise any issues, show anything, have anything shown, discuss any topics. We threw a lot at you in this module, mostly I think me and Bart pontificating about how to do this stuff and bigger themes, project management strategies, and resources that you can use as you go forth in your learning and authoring. So we're happy to respond to any of that if there's interest. We've got a relatively small group today, eight trainees. I'm not seeing any hands or questions. So this may be a reasonably short call. While you're thinking and deliberating about any such questions, let me give the floor to Jessica so she can show you and tell you what's going on in the following 2 weeks with the A to J material.
Thanks, Mark.
Jessica, yes.
So for the call for next week, the homework is to watch a video that covers macros. So that's ways to call out values that the end user's already given you in your interview. So like their name or their child's name or some sort of other piece of information they've already told you in later questions. We'll also cover functions, which are ways to manipulate data that an end user has given you, like sum, today, age, that kind of thing. And I cover the most popular functions in the video. And then I go over repeat loops, the 2 ways to do a repeat loop in A to J. And I talk a little bit about advanced logic and how to script those conditions. And then I have a little section on tips and tricks for authoring. And then the homework, the exercise to do after watching that video is to try to make an A to J guided interview with a hot docs template. So it's very simple hot docs template. It's just a Word document that I created that you turn into a PDF and you automate in Hot Docs Automator, and then you build the guided interview on top of it. And there's step-by-step instructions in the link, both in the syllabus that Mark is showing and in the chat that I put on for y'all. And it just goes step-by-step through the hot docs, and then it goes through the guided interview and shows you how to test assemble both of them together at the end. I find it's best to practice things that you've learned in order to do that muscle memory. Listening to a video or just trying it 1 or 2 times for limited thing might not help. So I built this sample exercise to kind of give you a quick and dirty everything you might need in a template and a guided interview. It takes about an hour to complete. We've had law students test it, and other trainees have gone through it, and they said generally it takes about an hour. And then the homework for the 16th that we'll review on the 16th, it's due before the 16th, is to watch another video. This video is only about 15 minutes long, and it covers our A to J author document assembly tool. So we built the DAT, the DAT document assembly tool, as a potential alternative to Hot Docs. If you have simple forms, you can automate them using the DAT and stay within the A to J universe. And so this 15-minute video covers the 2 ways to automate templates with the DAT. And then there's this another sample exercise that uses basically the same form as the one that you're going to do for next week. But instead of making a Hot Docs template, you make an A to J template. Same idea. It takes about an hour to work through. So if anyone is interested in volunteering for next week, you can talk through the project and just talk about any issues you have. Or if you have questions about how A to J and Hot Docs go together, we can raise those over the next 2 weeks as well.
Thank you, Jessica. Any volunteers? Anybody willing to be identified as showing and telling next week? Doesn't seem to be a particularly popular role to take. But we welcome your participation. As I think to talk about muscle memory, that's really critical to this kind of a training. Is not only do we want you to do, get your own hands dirty doing the exercises we show you, but we want you to keep doing them. That's one of the biggest issues I think we talk about in the recording with new developers. If you're not doing this right away on a real project and continue doing it on some regular basis, all of this wonderful learning you've been through in the last 6 weeks will slowly evaporate. So we really strongly encourage people to maintain this knowledge and extend it. Start doing a project, even if it's only a make-believe project. Start doing something, go back and redo some of the exercises, the tutorials, and keep this as fresh as you can, and take advantage of all of the resources that are in the end of this homework and materials for week 5. There's a wonderful collection both for Hot Docs generally and for the legal services world. So there's no excuse for feeling frustrated or stuck. We've got lots of issues. Lots of opportunities to resolve issues. Speaking of which, I'm just looking at a question from Aaron. Can't share his screen right now, but he has 2 questions from last week's homework. So let me unmute Aaron, and you can tell us, Aaron, and by audio means. Oh, actually, you're saying you can't. Let's see. How do you stop filtered items from creating an entry? I couldn't figure out how to use filter on a dynamic doc and include all the surrounding non-variable text. With the way I've got it set up, there was an empty paragraph that just contained a comma. I'm not quite sure I follow that. Bart, maybe you're making more sense of that. But it's really, how do you, I guess, if you're doing a condition in a document and you want to include all the surrounding non-variable text, you got an empty paragraph that contained a comma. I guess unless we can see that, it's going to be kind of hard to diagnose. Bart, have you got any instincts on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering what's going on there, because it sounds like there's some text in the, okay, since I couldn't use filter, I used an if rule. Oh, okay, so you need to use filter, and here's why. Because when you use if, all you're doing is excluding text within the repeat. You're not excluding the repeat. So I'm not sure why you couldn't use a filter. The only way, I mean, there are certainly other ways to do it, but filter is the easiest way if you just want to exclude the repeat entirely. What filter does is, if you have, for example, 3 children and you want to filter out the child who's over 18 and you want to have a paragraph appear for each of the minor children, the filter will only show 2 paragraphs, whereas the if you use the if statement, it's got anything within the if statement is going to, or the paragraph is going to show up, and just the text that's within the if statement is going to be excluded. I don't know if that makes sense. It does. Okay. Good.
Aaron says yes in the text box, which I think most people can't see, but I can read for you.
Yeah.
So he has used filter in the past, and he's unable to talk to us or show us a screen at the moment.
He had a second question.
So that may not make a lot of sense to others. Yeah, what was your second question? That
if you go up.
How do you get period to end? Yeah, to end on the line. So this relates to lesson 4, I guess, right, Bart? This is the repeat stuff in the 4th module.
Yeah. How do I get the period? If I put in, it says, how do I get the period to end on the line? If I put the end repeat in the paragraph, it won't create new lines for each entry. If I put a return, the period is on the line after the next entry. I'm trying to think of where this might have been so that I can be a little clearer in responding to it. So anything, normally if you want a paragraph to repeat and you want a period at the end of that paragraph, you would put the complete paragraph with the period in it, and then you would put a carriage return after the period, and the end repeat would come after the period. If you want to repeat the text within the paragraph, then you would put the period after the end repeat. And I'm trying to remember, I'd have to take a look and see the specific location where this was to see what the issue was. I'm going to be looking that up. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions or things they want to raise in the meantime.
Anyone who's got a question or a comment, raise your hand or put a question in the question pane. We have some notes from Aaron in there that Bart's reacting to.
Okay. So I don't know if this was in the repeat for the children of the marriage.
I'm just putting it on screen, Bart, so other people can see what Aaron has indicated. And you can talk to, or you could take over.
Yeah.
They add some hard returns to make it a little clearer logically.
I'm just trying to move things out of the way here, so yeah. Yeah, so okay. Yeah, because we did, I think in the training video, we put all of the children in one paragraph, and that ended in a period that was, and the list of children was punctuated with commas and. And this is a little different. This is, I don't see an end repeat here, but.
Somewhere that's down here somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so in this example, if there was an end repeat after this paragraph, you would want to put a period after child state MC or after the end if. Again, you don't want to use an if statement for this if you're filtering out adult children. You'd want to use a filter instead, and that if filter presumably is trying to do the same thing, but it's not. So the period would go right before the carriage return, and then the carriage return would be followed by an end repeat.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that helps, Aaron. It's kind of hard to get much clarity on this. Let's see. Probably best.
Yeah, he's saying, yeah, we really have to see it, I think, to properly address it. I'm just looking at his comments, and he's saying, if I put the period before the end repeat, the period would be in every entry, I think. If I put it after the end repeat, it will go on the next line. Yeah, if you're trying to put a period, I'm not sure exactly, but if you're trying to put a period after the last repeat, then I'm just trying to think this through a little bit. It sounds like what he's trying to do is put a period after the end of, at the end of the last repeat, and put some other kind of punctuation in each paragraph. Yeah, yeah, you could do that. You could have a condition that whether counter is equal to count children, and if it is, then you could insert the period. You could use. It's tricky with separate paragraphs and using the punctuation within the repeat dialogue field. I typically, in that situation, it's not something we really covered in the training, but I would typically use punctuation dot codes in that situation where I need to punctuate separate paragraphs, you know, where you have a list and you have semicolons out after the I would typically use, that's maybe something you can, I don't know if we've ever done a training specifically addressed to dot codes. I'm sure we've covered it at some point in one of the calls. Yeah, but punctuation dot codes are probably the way to go. Okay, I think this is not very useful for other people right now, so maybe Aaron and Bart, you guys can talk offline and get to the bottom of this one, but that's an example of the kind of nitty problems one runs into. Let me see if there's other people who have any comments generally, questions generally about the course. Hopefully you'll be sticking around and doing our A to J modules, which we highly encourage. A whole new universe of fun and colorful interactivity. Let's see here. I'm not seeing anything. So let's give ourselves another couple minutes just in case there is some late-breaking question or comment. Don't want to take away from your day, if not. We thank you for going with us on the journey so far. If you haven't been able to finish everything, now's your time to do that. The materials will remain online to be done at your pace if you're not synchronous with us. And we hope to have other people doing this as well. So we would love any feedback generally on the training materials or the calls or the whole methodology, as we keep trying to improve this. Claudia, anything you want to say? I think you wanted to mention we have another community call coming up at the end of October.
Yes, and I'm going to put it right now on the chat. Hopefully it goes to everyone. We are having our October call is going to be on the 30th, and we are very excited. We're going to be looking at regulatory efforts around document assembly platforms and form providers. So those of you in states where where efforts have already been going on. I would love to have you share how your legal aid is interpreting and looking at those regulations. And those of you who are not in states, you may want to learn about what's coming down the pike, particularly at the national level. So the call hopefully will be insightful and raise awareness on this, and then hear perspectives. We're very lucky. We have Will Hornsby, who used to be at the ABA, very influential in anything that had to do with ethics for attorneys. And then we also have Richard Granat, who has been a pioneer on document assembly and has been really watching this movement for years. And then Mark is gonna be the moderator. So hopefully it'll be a fun, more policy oriented than technical, but very relevant to where this is going.
Great. Okay, folks. Claudia put a link to that in the chat. If you're on the document assembly email list, you'll also get notices there. And we look forward to seeing you then, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And Jessica's going to be the master of ceremonies for the next 2 weeks. So I may be here just lurking, but not really doing much. Thanks again. Any last comments, Jessica, Bart?
Nope.
Nope, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week, and keep on trucking.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.